Hey there, welcome to Talking Texas Politics with Calvin. Thanks again for joining us today. I'm here with Mark and Jalise Middleton. Mark and Jalise, they go to church with us here in Gainesville, Texas. Got to know them very well over the last few years. You all had a very interesting event happen a few years ago, but why don't you all introduce yourselves to the folks and tell them a little bit about you and what you've been through the last few years.
Well, thank you for having us. I
Thank you,
appreciate
Calvin.
that. We're always looking for the opportunity to get our story out. I think it's super important. Mark and I are January 6th survivors and thrivers. We were at the Capitol on January 6th. We never went past a barricader in the Capitol. That always surprises people. There's so much information people simply don't know. And we set out to try to educate them a little bit about the J6ers because a lot of what they've been told isn't true. And so that's something interesting about us is that we did not go past a barricade, and yet we were still SWAT raided.
Yep.
April 21st,
2021, about 8 a.m. in the morning. And we both spent a night in jail, our first time to ever be in anything like that.
So you said SWAT rated. What exactly does SWAT rated mean?
SWAT rated means so almost every January 6th defendant, regardless of what they did, was raided by a joint terrorism task force from that consisted of members of the FBI, ATF, Department of Homeland Security, wherever else they could pull agents from. And so for Jalise and I, since there were two of us, we had two SWAT teams. So that's about 12 members each on a SWAT team, plus about 20 to 25 additional agents there.
And a tank.
And an MRAP. She calls it a tank, but it's close enough. It is an a wheeled armored assault vehicle. And yeah, they showed up at our farm out in Forestburg, Texas, and rolled in on us, throwing flashbang grenades, automatic weapons pointed at us, multiple weapons trained on us, and it was quite a chaotic and scary
drone.
scene.
They had a drone. What's probably fascinating for your viewers is when they understand the character of us a little bit. So, we are just simple farm people and lived out in the country on a 4-generation farm. Kind of stayed to ourselves. We're highly involved in church, raised our children as such, homeschooling off and on, and always, involved in church leadership and things like that.
Involved in the community.
Never been in trouble with the law.
No, had no background of any of that.
We were not, seditious or in conspiracy to take over the government.
None of that. Not involved in any of the scary groups or none of that. Just totally two normal American Jane and John Doe, and really kind of the all American couple. I mean, we started dating in high school and been married 35 years now. Yeah, that's it's kind of shocking to see someone like that get SWAT raided.
We've never been to a protest.
Except that one.
That
was our first one.
And it was even part of kind of a joke for us. Once we got up to the, fence line where they, had police officers standing to guard it, I can remember turning to Mark going, well, what do you do at a protest? What are we going to do now? And he was like, I don't know. I think we need to pray for our nation. That's a good point. And when we went into prayer, we were attacked by police.
From behind. So for January 6th defendants, a lot of us have had videos that exonerated us, and we couldn't show them because the government had classified all of them. They were part of our discovery. And a lot of J6 defendants never even got any discovery whatsoever. But we were some of the lucky ones. We did, and we were sitting there watching ourselves doing everything we claimed that we've been doing, and we couldn't show the videos, or we could only show little bitty pieces here or there or something. But fortunately now we can, and so Actually, what you'll be seeing tonight and what some of the others will be seeing are some of those videos. We select them down not because it makes us look better. Actually, you can barely see us in the videos, but because there is a cacophony of videos that we have showing us standing there huddled in prayer with our backs to the police and them attacking us from behind. So we had to kind of pick which one we wanted to show.
What shows everything the best. But, you know, for us, I think, I think the biggest opener for us was truly, I don't want to cry, but truly the Holy Spirit and how He worked in such an amazing way, such a real present way. And so for me, it's important to get that message out because, if you're a believer, you probably have times of, doubting, are you doing it right? You feel like you fail God every day. You just don't know. And when something like this happens, you realize, oh, it's built in you. It is, all he needs from you is that mustard seed, right? But everything else, even our faith, comes from Him. So I just want that message out.
And the ultimate trust in God. When this happened, we were instantly terminated from our jobs. We had very, very well-paying jobs, well known in the community, the whole 9 yards. And here we are on an island all by ourselves. We knew no one else that had any kind of experience that we could, call. And matter of fact, we couldn't actually call because the government had our phones for several weeks. And you're just kind of set adrift out in the middle of the ocean, and you're lost.
So that brings the second and third thing that I feel like is so important for people to know. And that is that you don't know your Constitution and you need to.
Yes.
Because when evil knocks on your door or breaks it in, knowing your Constitution, knowledge is power. You need to know what your rights are. Our rights were violated everywhere. And we were on a process we had no control over. So we could fight it all we wanted. We were innocent, but they made up a story to go with their narrative and then would pick and choose what they wanted to expose to make it look that way and then not allow you to defend yourself with any evidence by classifying it.
Yep.
So even in the courtroom, this happened. And so people need to know their constitutional rights. People need to know what's happening in our government and that it's not safe. And that is why we tell our story, is that old adage, when the government knocks on your door and says they're here to help, you better be afraid. And that's truly where we're at in this country.
And a few other things we learned is, first off, the first one to the media with the narrative wins the day. And it's going to take forever to catch up to that lie. I think it was, who coined the phrase? Was it Mark Twain that said, a lie will make it all the way around the world before the truth even gets its pants on? And that's absolutely true. That's what happened to every one of us J6 defendants. Is the media already had the narrative concocted, one, about January 6th, from the very get-go. But when they arrested each one of us, they already had that that narrative planted in the media. Stories were printed that morning before we were actually even arrested, or as we were being arrested, that news was coming out. And that happened with every J6er. If you remember back when Roger Stone was arrested, the government had CNN there to film it all. And that's the problem is the truth has to catch up to that lie. And it took right at 4 years for people like Jalise and I, and a few other J6ers and J6 advocates to be, go around the country screaming from the rooftops the truth, and sometimes showing some of this classified evidence, trying to get the truth out. Fortunately, we've won the narrative. I think, and it's purely a testament to God of giving me and her. We were the only two January 6th defendants that spoke out immediately after. It was actually in this group, Cook County Conservatives, is the first time I spoke out. That was probably a month and a half or 2 months after our arrest.
A
and
pre-trial.
a pre-trial,
Mhm.
and we screamed from the rooftops all over the nation, which is what, every lawyer in the world that's worth a salt is going to tell you: shut your mouth,
Don't
quit
say
talking, don't
anything.
say nothing, because you're just digging yourself deeper. And
We decided that this wasn't about us; it was
yeah,
about our
it was
nation.
about our nation, and it was about all of our brothers and sisters that are getting caught up in this J6 lie. And so
And it did make it to our discovery.
It did.
All the interviews like this that we would do, we had done over 100 at least, and probably 70% of them were in there.
Yeah.
They never did use them against us.
Never did. They only alluded to them to the judge, not to the jury, to the judge, trying to get us remanded to prison right there, either at our trial or later in our sentencing. And fortunately, the judge, there's a lot of bad we can say about our judge, a lot of things that he did violating our rights, violating other January 6th defendants' rights. However, I do feel like Judge Moss, I do feel like that he
tried to at least appear.
With us, he seemed to be almost like there was the Holy Spirit, because we had a lot of people praying for him and we were praying for him. But it was almost like the Holy Spirit just kept pushing and pushing him. And every time he went to treat us like the other J6ers, the Holy Spirit was pushing on him and he kept relenting. And it was.
But I want to go back to something, and it's more in general. I mean, we have our personal story, and I love sharing it. There's not a detail I don't want to share. I mean, I think it's so important that we can go on for hours. But I want to touch on some of the things that I have faced as far as questions that your viewers may have. And one of those, I've had many people go, "I was watching it live. I know what happened." And what I want to address with that is I was there personally. I know what happened. And just like when you need an expert opinion on medical, you go to the doctor. You might have a thought of what you think it is, but you go to the doctor because they're the expert. If you need an attorney, you go to an attorney. Why, when it comes to the January 6th defendants and survivors, do people now want to question the expertise of them being there? So, what I share about this is that what you saw on TV, they're saying, but we saw people attacking the police. You saw people. You're lumping all the patriots together. What you may have seen are people dressed like patriots. We have found there has been over 200 admitted confidential human source assets, along with FBI, DHS, CIA,
ATF,
and Ukrainian assets.
Yep.
In that crowd dressed as Trump supporters. And that don't even include Antifa. When you start looking at that many people that were dressed as Trump supporters, all on the front lines, starting fights with the police and, trying to rile up the crowd around them, the ones that are starting the chants and things like that. Now you get innocent people that are caught up in a crowd mentality. And now you get even a bigger crowd. But most of what we've seen, most of the nastiest things people saw on TV come out of 52 people that were at the top of the FBI most wanted list for breaking windows, attacking police officers, attacking media, and yet they were never arrested, even with facial recognition software. Yep. Now, why would that be? There's things that people need to know about.
Very good question.
And another thing on that is what you see, what the media keeps replaying that came out of the J6 Select Committee was a little montage. It's a loop. It's about 5 or 6 different incidences, and we're actually in that incident, in that loop. But you see that over and over and over, and that was extracted from about 5 different incidences. But what they don't show you is what occurred, what caused people to attack police. What happened is every single one of them, when you go back and look at the full evidence of what was going on, police somewhere attacked a woman every single time. And the crowd would rush in, the men would rush in, beat the cop back, or the cops away from the woman, extract the woman, and everybody would withdraw every single time. But the only thing you've seen in that montage,
And beat the cop back is very loose
loose,
terminology,
yes,
because it could have been just grabbing the woman back, or begging the police, let me get them,
And there were some instances where they really hit that cop and knocked him away. But again, they have a right. If a cop is attacking someone, they have a right to rescue that individual. Within a certain, if a cop's just going crazy on them, which they were.
The long story short, every single bit of the evidence we have found in the biggest assaults toward police, every single one of them was initiated by the police unfoundedly. Now, we understand police have a job for crowd control. This was beyond that. This was full-on assaults trying to get a reaction.
Yep.
So you were arrested with the flashbang grenades.
Yes.
Do you feel like that? Well, first off, what if they just gave you a call and said, "Hey, would you come in and talk to us?"
We'd go, "We don't know where y'all are at. What's the address?" We'll
I
be there in an hour.
actually asked them that when they were putting me in leg irons and all that stuff. And the responding agent, Agent Shepard, actually said that they were afraid that we would erase all the evidence on our phone. We didn't have any evidence on our phone. And the warrant, the arrest warrant and search warrant that they had, was only for our phones. It was not to search our house, which they did. It was not to seize our dangerous Trump beanies and scarves and stuff that they seized. It was only for our phones, and yet they wouldn't. So another thing we learned that's important is a federal agent doesn't have to have a search warrant to search your premises. They don't have to show you that they have one if they do have one. They can do whatever they want, and they can take whatever they want, and then they can, after the fact, get the warrant for it.
And fill in the blank.
And fill in the blanks. Yeah, as long as they catalog what they took, it's legal, and the judge will approve it, which is crazy.
And so you went through the whole arrest.
Mm-hmm.
Then you went through the trial. So you had to go back and forth to Washington, D.C. for the trial.
Several times.
No J6 case was allowed to leave Washington, D.C.
Yes.
So even though we had 2 different research studies done proving that we could not we J6ers could not receive a fair trial in D.C., they still never allowed one case out of Washington, D.C. That's because there were at least 13 judges that were completely biased and part of the plan.
Yep.
And so, did you get a fair trial?
No.
Oh, absolutely not.
Not even a chance.
Absolutely not. We were convicted before we even walked in the courtroom.
But what was really interesting, I was excited as everyone else, I think, to see how are they going to pull this off. Because me and Mark had 2 different, we had 7 body cameras, plus an aerial view that an Antifa member, not even a friend of ours, was taking of the situation, of the entire incident. And so it's like, when they're allowing it in the courtroom, how on earth are they going to defend this? Do you know they didn't try? They blatantly lied. 2 officers blatantly lied on the witness stand. But they would literally play the video showing what the officer did, and all the attorneys would, "Is that you doing this? Is that you doing?" And they'd go, "Nope, that's not, I didn't do that, nope."
And the prosecution would sit there and say, "And that's not what you're seeing, jury. You're not seeing that right there in that video."
And what
it's mind-blowing.
After all of it has played out, and I've had time to slow down and rethink everything, because I got copies of my transcripts of the entire trial and sentencing, I realized they very cautiously made sure the words for the transcript always showed us looking guilty and them looking innocent, even though the videos being played showed a completely opposite story. And so I guess that's how they win their cases.
Well, and so you were convicted.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
What was the outcome of that conviction?
So we were, our trial started on February 5th of 2024, so a year and a half ago now. And we were facing 9 federal charges, 4 felonies and 5 misdemeanors. And we were found guilty on all charges, straight across the board.
And one of them was, interfering with interstate commerce.
Yes.
If that can help you to understand the lunacy of some of it.
And the comical thing is during our trial, and they're pushing the federal agent Shepard is discussing the encompassing of interstate commerce. Pro-Palestinian groups were on the bridge over the Mississippi River there on I-40, had it all totally shut down. None of them ever got charged in interstate trafficking or interstate commerce. The reason why we were convicted on interstate commerce is because one Safeway inside of D.C.
happened to be connected to Murrell Bowser,
the mayor of D.C., closed 3 hours early that day because the city went under curfew. And because the distribution center is in Virginia, about 10 miles away, and they couldn't receive that late night shipment because they closed early. Therefore, we're guilty of interstate commerce, affecting interstate commerce. Very, very convoluted.
And they had it all, like they
Oh, yeah.
used the exact same evidence, which I say loose on the evidence
Yes.
because you would think they would have to prove a financial loss for this. But they redacted all the numbers for us. We could not even see what financial loss are you really claiming you have. No, the numbers were redacted in our own evidence.
At any rate, the felonies were civil disorder, which is comical because we were totally civilly ordered until they started beating us. Assaulting federal police officers, 2 counts each. And then the fourth one was the infamous 18 USC 1512, the Enron paper shredding charge. That's the one the Supreme Court overturned in July of 24.
So we had already been convicted.
Yes, we'd already been convicted.
Which meant it tainted our jury and giving evidence of us conspiring to harm the Congress. Okay, the argument in our case was, well, while they attacked police officers in order to take over the federal government.
Yes.
That was the argument.
They were asserting that we were trying to overtake the federal government.
And interfering with their investigation or whatever. So
you were convicted.
Yes.
We were convicted, and then they took that charge out.
Yes.
But still would not give us a new trial, even though it tainted
the jury. But we were also placed on house arrest in lieu of being redacted.
So how long were you on house arrest?
Right at 10 months. It rocked along. We kept missing sentencing dates for one thing or another. We call it kind of God thing. He kept throwing
and this
reasons.
Ankle bracelet and everything.
Well, they tried to put us on an ankle bracelet. That was the comical thing. They tried to put us on an ankle bracelet. They first tried one that was cellular based. And it was Verizon. Where we're at, you don't get Verizon signals. When they first put it on, it was in the winter months, so there was no leaves on the trees. And I told them as soon as the leaves start coming out, it's not going to work. Well, as soon as the leaves came out, like 2 weeks later, it quit working. So they tried a landline-based one, and the fiber optic system we have at the house, the landline system wouldn't work. So then we went on a voice recognition system, which was super lame. It called us once in the morning during the 6 to 7 o'clock hour. And then again, it would start calling us 2 to 3 times after the 5 p.m. hour. And it wouldn't call later than 10:30 p.m. So as long as we did nefarious things between 10:30 p.m. and 6 a.m., we were unmonitored.
With our sinister thoughts.
We were unmonitored.
So you were on house arrest for 10 months, but you did eventually go to prison.
We did. So our sentencing was October 22nd of 2024. And at that point, it was a 9-hour sentencing, which is unheard of. But at that point, what the prosecutors tried to do is they argued every point that they didn't have enough evidence to bring in the trial. And they were arguing the points to not need evidence, but still enhance our conviction and add years to us in prison. So they were asking was it 7.5 years or 9.5?
It was 84 months apiece. Is
Okay.
what they prosecution finally
Initially
settled on.
96, then down to 84.
Yeah.
So anyway, we did not get remanded in the courtroom. We fully expected to be, because we wouldn't go silent. Keep in mind, now we are being defiant. We refused to go silent because there were lives at risk other than our own. And we felt like it was important for the American people to know. So we kept speaking. So we did not get remanded. We were absolutely elated over that. But we were put on home confinement. It was a joke because we were in D.C. and they let us drive home on our own accord and take the long route at that and go sightseeing. So it really, they were very worried we were going to hurt society.
Yeah.
But we did. We then got a, well, I'll let you tell that.
So it was right after Thanksgiving of 2024. I got a phone call saying that I will be receiving an email that I will be required to self-report to Beaumont, Texas, Beaumont FCI low on December 17th. And that was an absolute gut punch. It was really hard to fathom, but I was very thankful that I was, one, being sent to a prison here in Texas and sent to a low facility at that. So I was very thankful.
By low, you mean
low security. So yes,
even J6ers, as innocent as 99% of them were, some of them were getting sentenced to supermaxes.
Yes,
trying to get them killed. So they could have put us anywhere, and they were. If they didn't like you, like two people not shutting up, they could have put us in a supermax.
Yeah, I was very surprised I got low. So low security, you're basically in a big dorm room with 120 other guys. You have little cubicles. Beaumont was not overcrowded, so we had two guys to a cubicle. And, basically in a low, at least for the men, everybody just wants to get along, finish out serving their time, and get out of there. And if you cause problems, everyone else will gang up on you and get rid of you because they don't want problems. And
So anyway, it was very hard for us to hear because we really didn't think we'd ever go to prison.
We thought we would ride the time out.
We fully trusted in the Lord that we've been called to this, and He is going to protect us. Mm-hmm. And He did. Don't get me wrong, but we had an idea in our head, and it looked different, right? So then I got a phone call like a day or two later.
It was 2 or 3 days maybe.
Yeah. And that was them telling me that I had to report on December 17th, 2024 to FMC Carswell.
Fort Worth.
Fort Worth. I'm disabled, and so they put me in a medical facility, which is really a joke. Please don't think a medical facility is a medical facility. It's not. In fact, the only reason they want to keep you alive is because they're making money off of you. But beyond that, there's no medical care. So anyway, we spent 34 days unable to communicate. They withheld my communications from me. Mark, they did not, but it was, I guess, pretty tough competition to get a phone. So
yeah. Well, and we couldn't communicate by phone together anyway.
Yeah, we couldn't talk.
But she was, shut down. So I made phone calls every day to people. I really had no trouble at Beaumont. The day of the inauguration was kind of neat. Everybody in there knew I was a J6er. In my pod, there were...
Just a side piece of information that'll be surprising to your viewers. Most prisoners are Trump supporters. Mm-hmm. They're basically the only ones that were not were illegals.
Yep.
So
anyway, I had no problem getting actual multiple TVs to watch the inauguration because everybody was interested in it in my pod because they knew I was the J6er. And like I say, there were 4 others there in Beaumont. And so we're watching everything, and I'm really starting to get kind of downtrodden because Trump hasn't pardoned us yet.
All day long.
It's going on and on,
and he's not said in the first
they're going to be
9
very happy.
minutes.
Yeah. So at 6 p.m., I got a call, and I'm called. The guard yelled out my name for me to come up front, and one of the counselors was there, and he grabbed me and he took me downstairs to his office, and he said, "Look, I don't have paperwork yet, but I know it's coming. I want you out of here before midnight, but I can't release you until midnight. As far as I'm concerned, you're a free man. But right now you have to stay behind walls. So where are the other J6ers? So I told him where everybody was, and he said, well, go get them. So, and that's unheard of too.
Trust the prisoner.
I trust the prisoner. So I got to go to the other pods and get the other J6ers and bring them to him. We went upstairs. We went back to our pods, got all of our personal things, brought it back down to his office. And when I went back up to my pod, the place erupted in cheer. I had people running out of their cubicles, grabbing me, hugging me, um, gang members and stuff. Okay, so I'll tell on everybody. Phones are not very uncommon, and I had people grabbing me, cell phones, grabbing me and taking me back to their cube to take pictures of me and send them, text them to their family, and I'm serving with an American hero and all this stuff. And it was shocking, some of the people that actually came and wanted their picture with me and were hugging me and congratulating me and stuff. So it was really neat. And it was about 11:15 when I got called to come go to processing. And they processed us out, and all the other J6ers were there. And then about 15 minutes before midnight, we actually were able to leave the prison by that time. But I'll let you tell. Your story's more interesting.
Yeah, so I had a much harder time. They had no intent of letting me out, even though it was a law that if he says immediate release, they have to do it by midnight.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's on Martin Luther King holiday, no, they said there was no one there to process, and they weren't doing it. But what they failed to budget into their mindset was that the same stubborn woman that was willing to go to prison for righteousness' sake is the same one that bred 2 daughters, and one of them was there. And so
there to pick her up.
There to pick me up. And she decided that hell would freeze over before she walks out of that place without her mother. So the fight was on. She had a fellow J6er with her. He's running for office. Yes. Lieutenant Colonel Larry Brock. Highly recommend him. Y'all need to vote for him. The guy's highly intelligent. He went there. He started outsmarting them with their own information on how they are going to let me out by midnight if they don't want to face this, and this. Rhonda Cates, a friend of mine, was there fighting for me. And she basically drove that guard unit so crazy, putting people on lockdown every time they drove in the parking lot, that they basically are okay, all right already. They had the White House calling, saying, what's the problem out here? And when it got that type of attention, they decided they had to let me go.
Ken Paxton was alerted to what was going on. He's, of course, state. Ken couldn't do anything directly, but he did make some phone calls that were apparently well placed. Mm-hmm. It went all the way. Brandon Gill was notified. He apparently got the White House involved. Laura Logan got the White House involved. A bunch of people. There were phone calls made from Washington straight down to Carswell saying she will walk out of that door before midnight or else.
And mind you, I had no communication, but I'll tell you what was so beautiful is everyone was there. Everyone was excited and watching and getting discouraged as the night went on with me. Now I want you to think there's 236 women there, and they're all excited for me. I'm the one that's been there the shortest amount of time. And I thought, how beautiful that these women know how to support one another and be excited for one another. And it's really hurt me to leave some behind. There were several politically persecuted that don't belong in there, and I don't know how to help them. But as with Mark, once you're in your unit, you're not allowed to come out. They'd already put us down for the night when they called me out, and them girls knew when they called my name, and everyone just come flooding out, upper level, lower levels, jumping around. One girl grabbed me, started jumping around with me. My body was hurting from head to toe with her jumping with me, but it was so beautiful, the excitement and cheering as we left that building.
So you spent 34 days.
34 days.
In.
Yep.
You were then pardoned.
Yes.
So you were made whole when you were pardoned.
No.
Pardon don't make you anywhere near whole. That's a misconception, and it don't make you innocent. Pardon says you're guilty of what you did, but we forgive you.
Yep.
So I wasn't happy with a pardon, but Later, because of that, the judge dismissed the
Well,
case.
we were in appeal. And so while we were in appeal, right after we were pardoned, Ed Martin, the acting attorney of DC, started filing to drop everyone's case. We are some of the very few January 6 defendants that are not only pardoned, but are also fully exonerated. So we are no longer felons. None of that is on our record. We are 100%
Not
whistle
supposed
clean.
to be.
Not supposed to be. It's probably there somewhere, but
Many J6ers, because we're domestic terrorists.
Yep.
Your viewers may not have known that either. Every J6er was classified as a domestic terrorist, so they could use the Patriot Act against
Yep.
us. And so that meant life was extremely difficult. You couldn't travel, things
well,
like that.
I do have my paperwork from the FAA and the Homeland Security
Yes.
saying you are no longer a domestic terrorist.
So we hope we can travel without a problem. But several J6ers have had trouble.
So, well, I really appreciate y'all sharing your story. Obviously, y'all have been through a significant amount. So what would you like to close? Is there anything you'd like to close out? So you're wearing American Patriot Relief. You want to share a little bit about American Patriot Relief?
Absolutely. Through all of this, we started a nonprofit organization called American Patriot Relief. It is a 501c4. It is for the politically persecuted, and of course, the biggest thing on the home front right now was J6. But it is to support the politically persecuted and helping them with commissary, keeping their home, things like that. And so we need your help for that, because we still have 14 J6ers that only had their sentences commuted. They've not been pardoned. And we also have Tina Peters still in prison. We have work to do that we can't do right now, because as soon as J6 fell out of the news, so did the donations. And we were making beautiful work. And what I'm most proud of, that I don't know if I have a right to be proud of, but me and Mark didn't take any money from our organization. It was all about everyone else. We trusted the Lord for us.
We put in a lot of our own money that we didn't have, that went into supporting other people, and it's beautiful. It's heart-wrenching work, and it's exhausting.
But we have been truly
blessed,
warriors in this movement. And we can't do it without great people supporting us. It wasn't us. It was y'all. It was y'all knowing the truth and stepping up for us and standing in the gap. And that's what we want to continue to do. The Lord has kind of sent us on a moment of rest. I think Scripture supports it fully, that you kind of got to step back and regather yourself. There are so many emotional wounds that come with this. You're seeing so many fractures within the J6ers, lost marriages, children that was used as an excuse to get full custody without visitation.
PTSD is incredible.
The mental warfare, people having a hard time getting back to work. Yeah. So the battle's nowhere near over.
So how do we find out more about this American Patriot Relief?
AmericanPatriotRelief.org. That is the only way to get a hold of us now. That is the best way to get a hold of us. You can donate straight from the website. You can learn more about us there, as well as send notes to the board for us to answer any questions you have. We are 100% transparent. We post all of our financials quarterly on the web, and we are 100% volunteer. Everybody, nobody takes a paycheck, not even travel expenses from it. Okay. So we spend every penny going back to those who actually need help.
Well, thank you all so much. This is, I know y'all have been through a lot. We can tell. So we're glad that you've come out of it. And so we appreciate you sharing your stories.
Thank you.
Thank you, Calvin.
So thank you all for joining us. Thank you for watching Talking Texas Politics with Calvin. God bless you, and God bless Texas.
Absolutely.